go.
Yeah. All right.
Here we
let's
go,
get
guys.
started, right?
Patch
So,
notes.
First
Don't
up,
forget to like,
we
comment,
have the
subscribe.
dodge and dodge attack changes. So just to give a bit of a refresher,
Okay.
we did a testing grounds a little while ago. I don't remember the exact date. I was
I'm gonna not do math right.
Yeah, right.
No,
It's
mine is
complicated. So where we tested a bunch of changes to dodges and dodge attacks, right? And so normally, like what we often do, not always, but what we often do is when we do a testing grounds and we go, okay, we're gonna go live with this. We kind of make a decision. Usually it comes the season after. Now for this, we wanted to take our time, make sure that we went through all the feedback, went through everything, and try to make the best decisions we could. Generally, the feedback was super positive. People liked a lot of the changes, most of the changes, in fact. But we've still adjusted a few things to make sure that things are going to be okay, and then we'll go through them like this. So first up,
here we go.
side dodge heavy attack, which was I think the most the most contentious part here we're going to talk about. But generally, most side dodge heavy attacks now act as light attacks when they're parried, right? So it means that.
But it does not apply to JJ Tiandi Warmonger.
Get parried, you're gonna be able to land a heavy attack on them, like a top heavy for most heroes or whatever. The idea here is that we want to have essentially every single dodge
better
attack
for you now?
have more risk and reward associated to it. So to do this, we've decided to go, okay, well, if you decide to commit to a dodge attack, if your opponent properly reads it and reacts to it and does what they have to do, they will get at least a heavy's worth of damage every single time. Now, the big point that players did not like as much in the testing grounds was the fact that it also applied to the slow faintable ones, namely JOTUNN, Tiandi, and Warmonger's side dodge heavies. So for those, that change does not apply. So the rule now is if your side dodge heavy is not parryable, if it's not feintable, sorry. If it's if it's not feintable, you get a heavy attack every time you parry it. If it is feintable, it's still gonna remain as if it's a heavy attack, right?
Okay,
so
makes sense.
When we're gonna add new heroes in the future, like you saw, we're gonna have 2 new this year. If they have feintable side dodge heavies, they're gonna be heavy. They're gonna be like heavy parries. If they are not feintable, they're going to be light parries. That's the idea here.
So that's the rule.
That's the hard and fast rule we're going by.
Nice.
It's very important for us to have what we like to call in game design a bit. Like it's predictability, outcome predictability, right? So it's, when you're playing against a character and they do a dodge attack and you parry it, you know what's going to happen, right? Even if you don't know the hero, you know what's going to happen. And so when you do manage to land that parry, right? So that's very, very important because it kind of lowers the need for for overall game knowledge, right? And having all those really weird, obscure rules that, oh yeah, I had to know this, I had to know that, I know that, and that's like false depth. People think, oh yeah, the game is a lot deeper for that. That's not really depth; it's just game knowledge. It's just knowing more than your opponent, and you can have a leg up on them sometimes, but it's not conducive to a healthy game. That's why we're trying to set these rules. So that's kind of how we're going with this.
Nice.
So next up, we have delayable side dodge attacks. I know some people are really smiling right now. I have
Hold on.
So most side dodge attacks now can be delayed from 200 to 400 milliseconds. This should help a lot of situations, right? We have a lot of times where some attacks, if you do like a side dodge attack that's like 600 and it only could occur at 300, it wouldn't be able to beat some bashes, like could beat some action recoveries and stuff. With this, it should fix most of these issues. Also makes all of the ones that are not feintable immune to guard break when you buffer them, when you do them super quickly. So most of the time when you're going to do a heavy feint to the guard break, you're going to bounce off of it. We want to have that. But if you delay them a little bit too much, that guard break is going to land, right? So we want to have that kind of reliability there, that flexibility. And it also really feels so much better being able to delay them and go, okay, I'm going to dodge. Okay, I'm going to attack a little bit later. So that feels super good in general. So we really wanted to put that in. We had it set at 300 for a while for a bunch of heroes because we're seeing a lot of people complaining about dodge attacks, like, oh yeah, they're way too strong, whatever. And it was like a way of us normalizing that. And so we're stepping back from it a little bit to give more player agency and have a little bit more like finer control over things.
It seems like small change, like between like 400 MS and 300 MS.
I will have to play it to see really like.
It's 3 frame. It seems like nothing.
It seems like
but
the changes though.
It has an impact every time they move. Like just for like, it's gonna be easy to just move for like 100 MS, but it had a lot of work on our plate to rework the transition to all of those moves. So
because if you can do it a little bit quicker, then it might look a little bit
And
odd.
now you see them. You see them sometimes during the testing ground because we don't have time to. But I mean, we're sim player. Like it's a testing ground, so you have to test if it works, and if we're okay with this, we're gonna change them. So that's what we did for those. So.
There's a few exceptions to these that are listed. I'm not going to go through them. You can read, I'm assuming. I hope so anyway. And then, so you can see that the exceptions here. Yeah. I'm sure somebody's screen capping it and putting it on Reddit already.
It's already there. There you go.
Good. But those are the exceptions. Okay. So that's how we're going forward with this.
So again, it's kind of nice though, because again, what you're doing here is again you're setting the rules that make sense, and then you're also still adding the exceptions here. What is so it's not just going to be some blanket thing that is going to make some heroes feel like more unbalanced than others.
Yeah,
it's nice to take the
side
time.
Dodge
to
bash is no
we
longer
really want to have
chain on
those exceptions for very, very specific
a side
attacks.
dodge bash are now 600.
These still filled the purpose that we want them to fill. Right. Kind of how it works.
So
the side dodge bash is vulnerability.
Absolutely.
So like I mentioned before,
those con players, Chogoki's that just like the headbutt from neutral, side dodge head. Don't miss.
Side dodge bash.
Don't miss.
So you can dodge them though. Yeah. So you can do heavy feint side dodge.
Those glides are like the bash all the time. Don't miss.
No longer chains on miss. And they are all vulnerable to guard break on miss as well. If you manage to like do it on read, do like heavy feint, and you go, my opponent's gonna do a side dodge bash. You side dodge and guard break them. It should always land. But that's good. It's kind of it's a change to some heroes. It might make them a little bit weaker there, but this only applies to side dodge bashes, right? Okay. So specifically for Chogoki, for example, where beforehand he could chain on miss on side and on front. Now you can chain on miss on front, but not on sides.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's fair. And that
you know how Chogoki's like they would do the side headbutt and then throw that heavy and beat your GB. Nah. No, absolutely not.
Well, I want to be able to enter my offense, want to be able to do my stuff. So we kept it on the front one, for example, for that. So that's just the important thing here, because I remember seeing a lot of people going, oh yeah, all these bashes, don't chain on miss anymore, but it's really only specifically the side dodge ones. Okay. That if they did, they no longer do. And we also slowed down some side dodge bashes, but they're all now 600 MS at a minimum. The reason for this is that some of them were 533. We had them at 500 at some point. And we find that like at that point, the reactability threshold for bashes gets a little bit too tricky. So at 600, these should be a lot more easily reactable by everybody. There's a big tell of seeing the side dodge as well. So you see, okay, they're dodging. Probably a bash is going to be coming, so you have time to go out. If you fainted, I need to dodge, and you can pre-dodge a little bit, and it works a little bit better. So that's kind of like a big difference here. Yeah, that's it. You can pre-dodge.
That's a technical term.
Technical term, pre-dodging, yeah.
Nice.
Then we have defense while dodging.
Whoa.
So this might seem a bit complex there, but non-reflex guard heroes no longer have regular block while they're dodging in any direction.
Okay.
Now, this is basically Valk rules, right? Valkyrie has this currently on live. We're applying this to everybody. So when you dodge, either front or side or back, most reflex guard heroes, actually all of them, well, most of them except for Valk, kept their regular block. So either it forced your guard to swap in a specific direction, and you would gain your guard during the dodge in that direction.
Right.
Or it would keep it where it was. For example, Warden could guard top and then side dodge and keep the guard on top. This was causing issues a lot of the time with undodgeable attacks. There's a lot of mix-ups, like if you look at Afeera, for example, it was really difficult because we couldn't really do these mix-ups before where, well, we can't do undodgeable in a single direction because you could just say, well, I'm going to block in that direction and then dodge in a different direction, or even dodge in that direction, however it is, and then you could avoid both of them. That's why often enough we try to put them on top, because on top, like some heroes force it on the sides. But now this applies to everybody, so it means that it gives us more freedom as to what stance we can put on dodgeable attacks. More stuff like we did with Afeera, where like only top is undodgeable, sides are going to be something else if we want. It really opens up that space and lets us do a lot more stuff there. So that's really, really great.
Okay. Cool.
So clearly, like reflex guard heroes didn't have this, so it doesn't apply to them. It's really specifically for non-reflex guard heroes. I want to make it clear, we've had some discussions internally. People were unsure, didn't really understand. So super clear, it's all the non-reflex guard heroes. Then a little change from we had from the testing grounds is that heroes regain their defense 100 MS after being able to swap their guard during a dodge. So normally you can start changing your guard at 600 ms into a dodge. And so now you can get, well, 633, sorry. And so now you can get your defense at 733 while you're dodging. You can do a guard swap, and even if you don't guard swap, it'll come back at that moment. That was a bit of feedback we got a lot from pro players there. I want to give a lot of shout outs to them because I don't want to name names, but we're talking to some players.
Yeah, you know who you are.
You know who you are, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, so a lot of the feedback we've gotten for that is that it made a lot of these heroes feel really, really, really unsafe in group fights because that defense was coming back super late. So because of this, at least it comes back a little bit earlier. If you did an empty dodge, if you didn't throw an attack out of it or whatever, at least you can block a little bit earlier and it feels better.
All right.
And then last but not least, another change from the testing ground is that Conquer and Kensei superior block windows are now 100 to 300 ms, which is the same as Deflects. So Deflect is a little bit different because there's like iframes involved, but it's the same as this, right? And so the idea is that Conquer and Kensei used to have superior block during the entire duration of their dodges, either from side or from front. So because of this,
that explains so much.
Right? Because of this, they were still able to negate some mix-ups and have that defense. So we've kind of reworked this so that it feels like the other superior block heroes, like Zanhu, like Valk, and like other reflex guard heroes, to have the same timing there. So it's still usable, but it's not I can block and superior block the entire time I have my dodge. So it's a bit of changes for those heroes, but it still works. It still feels quite good. Just the window is going to be a little bit tight.
Okay.
And then last but not least, we have Invulnerability while dodging. This one is a big one. I know I've seen some videos about it, and it doesn't really feel like you don't really notice it until it happens to you, right? So
makes sense, yeah.
Right? The problem we had is that a long time ago.
Thank you. Oh, you know how many times I've died because of this?
For realism and like for things to look more natural, if you dodged and you hit a wall or another player or a minion or whatever it was, you would lose your invulnerability frames, your invincibility. We call them iframes in like more technical terms.
Yeah.
You would lose them because you're no longer moving. And so we wanted to look good if you were still going to get hit by a weapon because you wouldn't really see it phase through you. Whereas if you're moving, you don't see it phase through you as much, so it didn't really matter. However, this caused a lot of issues. Let's say you're stuck in a corner, right? You're in a map that has
infinite bash
tight corners. You could get stuck in the corner and get bashed infinitely and just never be able to get out of it because your invulnerability frames would never, ever, ever kick in because you would hit walls in any direction you were dodging, so you would get stuck there. So with this change now, is you no longer lose them when you dodge, no matter what happens. You can hit walls, players, heroes, whatever it is, and you're not going to lose them, which means that those situations will not happen anymore.
So for the people that get stuck into those corners, they know about. They know exactly what that means.
I've seen videos from content creators showing why this is amazing.
Yes.
So go look at their videos.
Amazing.
If you're not sure of what this means, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty big injustice to correct. So
exactly.
There you
go.
go.
Seasonal themes. Here we go.
That works really well. Okay, so I think that's it for dodge stuff, right?
Well, and I again, like that's a lot. By the way, my brain has been like just
this is a lot of stuff.
I mean, as best they can.
This seems like a lot of stuff to change because this is just dodges.
That I really think is cool.
There's more.
You know, some of these decisions, like they're made like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when the game's still in development, and I think it's awesome that like we can again spend this time with the community to look at like the state of the game and to make decisions like this that like just because we thought about that 6 years ago doesn't mean that has to be the way it is today, and we can do something about it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Really cool.
I love that we're in year 7. We're still making big changes like this.
Yeah.
Right. And we're all like the entirety of the team is super dedicated. We love the game. We love what we're working on. It's super amazing. Everybody's passionate, and it shows in the work that we do and how we present it and stuff. But it wouldn't be possible without having our players, right? So our players are there. They're our backbone. We love them. And it's very important for us to do stuff that people like. Sometimes we're gonna do stuff maybe you're not gonna like it personally. We're making changes and they can be contentious.
It's difficult as well because we try them, but as soon as it's out and the player gets their hand on it, they accumulate hours way much more than we can.
This is very true.
In our so
it makes it really, really
feedbacks are really important.
Yeah, feedback's really
That's
important. Okay, so Jorm rework, right?
Oh, my heart.
Nolan.
Oh, it's happening. It's finally happening.
I think it's Nolan's main here.
It's the real reason why I came back to the couch. All right.
All right. So yes, the Jorm rework is coming live next week.
Next week,
March 16th, I think. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, probably, right? By this
March
point, we've said the
16th.
date so often. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, the testing grounds that we did last season was very well received. People seem to like a lot the direction we were thinking with the hero. So most of what was there is intact. We've done some tweaks. We're gonna go through them to make sure that things were not like as balanced as they should have been. Or
they're
could
gonna
have been. But
change
even
so
then,
much.
it's a testing
Oh
ground,
my
it's
goodness, they're gonna
normal,
change so
right?
much.
And
What are they gonna
we're
say? What are they
putting
gonna
things in
say?
the testing ground, like Vanessa's saying, so that we can kind of evaluate some things. And sometimes we do stuff on purpose. Sometimes things are overpowered on purpose, so we can go, is this actually overpowered or not? Because no matter what, I'm not an oracle. Nobody's an oracle here. Like, we can't see the future. And there's things that we
don't have this.
Yeah, we don't have the Celestials.
Yeah,
we don't have
the
the
Celestials,
fear
right?
anymore.
Yeah.
And there's things that we put in testing grounds before that I personally, and some people on the team as well, were like, for sure, this is going to be like too strong. For sure, people are going to hate this. For sure,
Yeah.
But we have to try things out. And then it comes out, not
People
a
love it, yeah.
peep about it. So it showed that sometimes we're wrong. And we're happy to accept
Yeah,
when
of
we're
course.
wrong about things.
Mhm.
And when we can correct them, when we need to correct them, or if we don't. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how it works. So let's go through Jorm.
Yes,
See
please.
what is changing from
I'm putting this on
current live
Twitter
Jorm
right now.
to new Jorm. Normally, when we do these things, we go, what changed from the testing grounds to live? Now, I wanted to make sure that, not everybody was there for the testing ground, not everybody saw that sort of stuff. So we're going to go through what is going live right now.
Okay.
So we are first and
Here we go, hold
foremost
on.
removing the stamina-based gameplay, right?
Huh?
That was one of the big
Wait.
cornerstones of Jorm back in the day. That was what we designed the hero.
Moves
the
no
hero
longer
around.
unbalanced opponents.
But after the game evolving a little bit more, after going into a direction where we like players to attack, we like players to be able to perform and do things in the game, and so having a hero that really, really drains stamina nonstop did not feel good.
Right.
And on top of that, balancing that is extremely difficult because you have to go, well, how much damage does every bash drain, for example? And then it just becomes a cat and mouse game of this is too high, this is too low, and there's no real good sweet spot.
Oh no, yeah, let him
So
cook.
with
Let him
this, we
cook.
decided to remove it completely and shift Jorm's game plan to something else entirely that you might have seen in the testing ground. So for this, moves no longer unbalance opponents out of stamina, that are out of stamina, and they no longer deal stamina damage or pause stamina regeneration. So the idea here is that really we're getting rid of the stamina-based gameplay and we're moving more into what we call the displacement.
Okay, good. Okay.
There you go.
So
That's what I thought. I thought
we're
that
doing
move did not go over.
displacement-based
Okay,
gameplay.
okay, we're good.
First
Okay.
part is a new move called Venomous Sting.
Wait,
so it's
what?
A move that,
Wait.
you perform by pressing heavy when you land a guard break. You can choose which stance you're going to do into. It's going to push opponents back, and it can wall splat. So you guard break somebody, you do like a top, left or right, hits them really hard, pushes them into walls, does all sorts of cool things.
Okay.
You can get another guaranteed hit afterwards when it lands, so that's cool. But we lowered the damage of that attack to 12 damage. In the testing grounds, that was at 24. Mostly because we felt that,
okay.
part of
I get it.
was,
I get it.
well,
I get it. I
it's
get
a
it.
heavy
Okay.
after a guard break. It should deal at least 24 or somewhere around that. But we've after a lot of play testing, we've seen players in the testing grounds. We've changed. We've lowered the damage a little bit. And we've tried to giving other options.
And then
deal
heavy
damage in there, so that you still get that cool feeling. You still get those big wall splats. It still feels cool.
Yeah.
But it's not as strong as it used to be.
Gotcha.
It's not as strong as
Next we have
Afeera.
Displacement-based part 2. So heavy finishers, right? I'm gonna kill myself saying these words all the time, so I'm just gonna stop. So heavy finishers, right? So top heavy finisher now pushes opponents backwards.
Okay.
It didn't used to. So the side ones used to push people backwards.
Right,
and
right.
unbalance when you hit people out of stamina. So the side ones still push people backwards, but the top now also does it. So you can now choose really if your opponent's back is to a wall, you can do a top. They're gonna hit the wall. It's gonna feel cool. So that works. The heavy finishers now also push opponents further away than they used to on live right now to make sure that you do end up getting those wall splats more often.
I knew Jorm was going to get a big damage nerf.
24 damage down
I
from
knew
30, and the size deal 22 down from 29. Again, it's to make sure that we don't get damage that's obscenely too high. These land like in the case of like other heroes that have that sort of game plan, their damage was really high. We've kind of done things to like limit it a little bit. But in this case, these attacks do not land as often. They're never really guaranteed. So it's different. So we can keep the damage a little bit higher and get the follow-ups stay a little bit higher as well because they're more situational.
Nice.
That's really
okay.
Cool. And animation-wise, like a
that was such a big one. Like
it looks good. Yeah.
It was almost a redoing of a character. Like there's gonna be more stuff coming, but yeah, we had from TG and even like from integration right now, like coming live. We still rework animation. We went back to reshoot some stuff that was changed from the TG.
It was
so
crazy. Yeah, from the Garbrick, I remember when we were doing the first testing grounds, we had a specific animation for the top one.
Yeah, and we changed.
We weren't happy with the way it looked, right? And so Vanessa's team wasn't happy with the way it looked. So
it was
yeah.
No, but it has to serve a gameplay purpose, but it still have to look cool and make sense. And I think it wasn't like really making it, and I think even player noticed as well. It wasn't like that great, but we kind of knew in advance, so we went back to mocap and redid it. And I mean, this one, the new one is the new one is really cool. Yeah,
that's super cool. All right, so next up we have part 3 of the thing I won't read anymore. So heavy openers, right?
Yeah.
So we've done some damage changes to the heavy openers as well. So top now deals 22, side now deal 20 down from 27 and 24.
That feels so
we've
bad.
Also sped up the top now because
Vouch Bash does 20. The same as Jorm's heavy.
So again, this is to lower the potential damage that you get off of wall splats. Usually, that heavy is the best option.
Right.
So with the slightly lower damage, you still deal like more damage than usual off of a guard break, for example. But you're gonna deal 34. You're not gonna deal like around 50 damage, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I know. But at the same time,
it has to be fun for the player that get knocked.
Exactly.
That's
like,
right.
It has to be fun for everybody.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that things work here. So that's kind of interesting there. All right. So now let's move on to flow improvements. So we've added another new move to our friend Jorm, which is called Ouroboros Might. So you press light plus heavy attack during chains. Basically, it's his own attack input if you know how to play the game. The attack is 800 milliseconds, so it's kind of slow, kind of the speed of most
press
heavies.
light and heavy
Deals
during
24
chains.
damage and costs 12 stamina. It can be feinted. It can be performed after any attack except itself. Venomous Sting, which is the heavy after guard break, or Hammer Slam.
Okay.
Go back to neutral there, so it kind of chain.
So press zone in between chains. What does that look like? It can be feinted too. I need to see that.
Use it after like
Show
light
me.
finishers, heavy finishers, to do that move, then go back into those finishers, so it feels really, really cool. And it also gains uninterruptible stance at 100 ms. So the idea here is that we really wanted to have a way for Jorm to have much better flow and be able to compete better and be able to have like those cool tools. And because a lot of the game's meta now is really group fight oriented, we wanted to make sure that we have a move that you can actually use in group fights. Those heavy finishers have massive trajectories and hit a lot of people.
Right.
So you can go nuts and do like zone to heavy finisher to zone to heavy finisher to zone to heavy finisher.
I will do that. Yeah.
Right.
So
you get armor too, so it's way harder to get people to peel off of you. So it's super cool, and it's a really different move as well. Vanessa, if you want to talk through it.
Just the flow, just the fact that it goes through in the back. It's really fun. I remember when because for zone, it always depends like. We are on the animation team a little bit more free in terms of like on which side we're gonna do the zone. Of course, we check on previous like the zone itself, but also like all the other move, which one makes sense. So I remember doing that one from the other stance, and it wasn't like as flowy. So we stuck with that one, and it looks cool.
It does.
This one is fun.
Nice.
All right. So other flow improvements. So JOTUNN Gift, which is if I remember correctly, it's the light attack after guard break. So that one deals down deals 10 health damage instead of dealing a bunch of stamina damage, right?
Gotcha.
So the idea now is that if you want to get 24-ish damage off of a guard break, you can do guard break light. The second light afterwards is guaranteed. So you get about the same amount of damage as you used to get off of a guard break beforehand. But it really helps with being able to like, okay, so if I want to deal more damage, I do those lights. If I want a wall splat potentially because there's a wall nearby or whatever, I'm going to do my heavies, wall splat people, and go into it. So we made that change to kind of really fit well with the hero's game plan and have something good there.
You also, I mean, JC, you're giving me options now. And that's exactly, I love options.
The whole point.
Options
that's
are
the
great.
whole point,
Yes.
right? Yeah, so then we have JOTUNN Farewell, which is the bash that we can do in chains.
Nice.
So we have a brand new animation for this that we're going to
poke one? Yes.
again. That's kind of like
On the kneecap.
yeah, like
Ouch.
hit the kneecaps really hard.
So good.
It always unbalances opponents on hit.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, because I mean, you know,
I mean,
Ow.
ouch.
Okay.
Yeah.
right? I mean, you know, I don't know about you, but I don't really want to get hit
cool,
by
cool,
a giant hammer in my kneecap.
Nah, I mean, like, it just gets right back up.
I will
I'll be on
stay
there.
down. I
Yeah,
will say
no.
I'm out. I'm
Now,
just
fight
like, you know
over,
what?
I'm done.
Just-
I'm sorry.
That's
yeah.
it, right? It's 800 MS, so it used to be 500, so now it's 800. And you can now
Feintable.
feint it as well. So
Yep.
it becomes like a
Cool.
really interesting
Okay, I like
good
it.
mix
Okay,
in there
good. That's
by
what I need to
itself,
see.
And it really like is super interesting.
I love the
That's-
camera on that one.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
Right.
We have
Thank
to
you for the
put
sub,
some
keyboard.
cameras over gameplay to really being able to see the animation and to focus on the right thing. Again, left stance is always the tricky one because
Yeah.
the camera is placed on the other side and you have to see what's going on. I know from the opponent you most often see it well, but as a player you want to be able to like be a little bit satisfied. Like I want to see the cool move too, you know. So a little bit of like camera there, so work to enjoy.
And poor
The
mocap
ouch,
guys that got hit in the
Yeah.
No, come on, we don't.
How many times did you hit them in the
kidding.
knees? No.
Those guys,
We
they're
don't hurt
amazing.
them.
We would never hurt them.
No, of
So,
course.
Oh, but the
Kicking the
slam
shin
no
for the
longer has
problem. Yeah,
interruptible
okay,
stance, no
Oh my
armor.
God. No.
We don't do that. We don't.
Yeah, we don't
do
do that. Like, it's a big joke there. But yeah, okay. So then finally, hammer
So
slam.
you can
here.
get hit out of it.
So it no longer has uninterruptible stance, meaning armor. We want the move to be able to be peeled, right? Even though it's a big payoff move for Jorm, because it happens off of JOTUNN Farewell all the time now, we want to make sure that if you're trying to use it in a group fight, if you have an opponent that can call it out, they can interrupt you. Of course, instead you can try to do your zone instead and try to make yourself armored. But the idea here is that we want to make sure that if you initiate it, it needs to be peelable because it's a big move that deals a bunch of damage. Speaking of damage, it deals 30 instead of 38. We would need to remove it a little bit because still a bash that ends up dealing 38 damage was a bit too high.
Yeah.
That's
But 30,
kind of crazy.
it's more in line with like almost like your damage
Yo,
cap.
that's kind of crazy.
Nice.
That kind of works there.
Now, I don't want to get ahead of
And we also
myself.
sped up its recovery
but
a tiny bit
with
by
feet
100
two,
MS, so that you
instant
are,
instant
free
knockdown
neutral
with
after
feet 2
landing.
is
So that
crazy.
works really well. Again,
I'm about to switch up my whole Jorm build.
Position. You're not like back to.
I'm gonna have to put
negative
Aegis on.
against your opponent.
Because I'll be getting shield like crazy. I'll be
Then
getting
we have
shields
quality
like
of life
crazy.
improvements. So JOTUNN Surge, right? We reworked the animation. Basically, we took the animation that we had.
It's chain bash, chain
from
bash.
The chain bash before. We put it
I'm pretty sure
on
it's chain bash.
front dodge guard break
Yep.
instead of being hold back and guard break.
Oh, okay.
I will hold down and guard break. So
Wait, what?
the neutral one, like holding down and guard break, it kind of works in some situations, but it almost just acted as a reaction check, right? So
Right.
if you're above a threshold, it's completely useless against you. And if you're below that threshold, it's extremely strong. And so we're trying to move away from those in certain situations. Afeera has it, for example, but it's way slower. You have time to react to seeing the orange and be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
In this case, because it's skirting those reactions, we're not super comfortable with those and we're moving away from them. So we put it off a front dodge. It's 500 MS now instead of being 6.
Good.
And it no longer chains on miss. So we wanted to make sure that it doesn't chain on miss here so that it's always punishable properly. And because Jorm has a bunch of other options as well, Jorm's lights are still enhanced, so you can still try to open up people a little bit more. And we're keeping an eye on a lot of these things to make sure that, okay, well, is
It
this
should confirm a
proper or
light.
not? Do we need
Otherwise,
to
it's
chain on
useless.
miss? If we need to, we're doing a lot of balance changes. Like,
All the time,
Yeah.
so, like, if things end up happening, I want people to make sure that we're always keeping an eye on these things. We've been doing a lot of changes these days.
It doesn't confirm a light?
This is kind of one of those
Yeah,
things that we're gonna
those
keep an eye
changes
on.
are not necessarily set in stone. Like in the future, because I mean, this game has been
Yeah, we're a live
evolving.
game,
Like
right?
yeah, we're a live
Change,
game, so
it's all
we
good.
yeah, exactly.
So it does no
We've
stamina
also,
damage and it doesn't
reworked
confirm light? Wait,
animation
what?
for the light
Yes.
opener. So I know some players were not like, oh yeah, I like the previous ones because they felt really unique,
Yeah.
but they had a bit of an issue, which is especially at top level.
Wait, what?
We have some players that are able to react to animations, not only indicators but animations. And I'm sure a lot of reviewers are going, yeah, I can do that. Well, if you could do it, the problem was that because Jorm's lights were so unique, you could parry them on reaction by going, oh, this is the movement the attack is doing. Clearly, it's a light auto parry, right?
Yeah.
You have to have good reflexes there, but that's kind of how it worked.
It's
So-
always a challenge when we design them, right?
Exactly.
Because we know like opener is something everybody has, but we don't want that to happen, but we want them to make them unique. So it's always like a little bit tricky. And I feel like with this one, we were like happy the first time around, but
And it's important
I'm
to
happy
go
with
through here.
that one. Yeah.
We reshot these. I remember people
Oh, yeah.
saying, yeah, these are reused, these are
Oh my
reused,
God!
whatever.
Yes.
They're
Bash does
reshot.
10
Yes,
damage.
I'm
Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
notice.
Because I know you guys
Okay.
are like trying to see like, oh, this one is reused from this one, but it's new mocap.
Okay,
And
good.
sometime we have to retweak some animation to make it work. So it has to work for gameplay. That's the main goal for this animation. Those animations exist for a purpose, gameplay, and after that they have to be cool, of course, fit the characters, all of that. So it's kind of like a balance in the animation itself
Yeah,
to
right.
fit the game design, but we cannot like do just an animation because it's cool and just like, oh geez, I don't care about your attack. I'm not gonna do that. I mean, it
that's-
has to make
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's part
So
of why like we love working with our animation team.
yeah.
Like even though what we see,
Even though what
So it doesn't- see, I didn't pay- I wasn't
what
paying
players
attention.
See is
So
what
it
your
doesn't do
animations end
anything?
up
Yeah.
being. We're always super flexible and you're able to talk to each other and go, look, like we need to have this type of
There's no
gameplay.
way.
Exactly.
So how can we work together to get those animations to work?
And
properly?
the openers are always
There's no way it does
it's the-
nothing. There's
it's
no
the
way.
openers. It's the starting point,
Yeah.
and they have a bunch of transition, like way to transition to another move. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's a lot of work.
So on top of that, so quickly, we've also improved the trajectory so it can hit people externally a little bit, and we've also increased their forward movement so you're able to like move forward. A little bit.
I gotta rewatch this and look and see if
then
it did damage because I
think
wasn't
this
paying
is
attention.
The last slide for you. There's so
Been
many
a lot.
stuff.
It's been
So
I mean,
light
yeah.
Quite a
finishers,
bit.
they're no longer undodgeable. So they
Oh,
used to be
no light
undodgeable
finishers. They're no longer
because,
undodgeable.
The bash and chains was 500 ms, and so we needed to have that mix up.
Right.
Now, because that bash and chains now actually is feintable and it comes with its own built-in mix-up, they no longer need to be undodgeable. And so we did that on testing grounds. Nobody seemed to care that much. And at the end of the day, they're still useful. They're still enhanced. You can still use them to
Yeah.
kind of like mully people and like go back into your zone and stuff. So they're still useful, but they didn't need to be undodgeable. And so when there's properties that are no longer needed because we update the character's kit, we'd rather remove them and make the character more readable, right? Because at some point, we don't want things to end up looking like a Christmas tree and having like everything light up all the time, you know? So it's kind of like the idea here. So we want to make sure that things are more readable for players.
I want a
Amazing
Christmas tree
visual right
hero
there.
now.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Then we have Serpent Smite. So that's the dodge for it heavy. So it's now 800 ms. It used to be 1,000. It used to be super slow. So at 800, it's a little bit more manageable. We've also lowered the damage a little bit to compensate for the faster speed.
You
And
just
it
have to look
also
at the health
gains
bar.
Uninterruptible stance at 400 instead of 600. So you get your armor a little bit earlier. You can
Okay,
use
good.
that to initiate your chains. You can
That's
use
actually
that to
really
mix
good. I
up
like
your
that.
Front dodge bash. So it's way more useful than before. And it's even a thing where like, oh, well, if my opponent like tries to light me on reaction of me dodging, well, maybe they're gonna get hit by
I mean, the
that,
damage numbers are up
by
here
the
too, so.
attack because of it, because it's armored. So it's kind of like a lot of those like little mix-ups that we're putting in there to really help the character get into their chains a little bit better.
Nice.
And then finally, we've improved the chaining timings for a bunch of attacks.
You just check
one of the
Kenzo, it
feedbacks
does
that we
no
got,
damage at
especially
all.
from higher level
Dang,
players,
are you
was
serious? That
Jorm,
bash does
even though, like,
nothing?
he had that big hammer, the timing at which you launch your chained attacks from a lot of these things was a little bit too late. And so because of that, it felt sluggish.
Nah, it probably confirms the
took
light. They did not
longer
show it though.
for your armor to kick in. It took longer for your unblockable to come out. For a lot of these things to come out. So we've adjusted these so that you do end up feeling a little bit more fluid, a little bit more.
I hope it
it's a little bit
confirms
more
the light. They didn't
interesting,
show
and like things work just generally better with those increasing lengths. I mean, it's not a massive change, but it's enough to really feel the difference there.
It's like Jorm went to the spa, now it's all relaxed. You can
Yeah.
just go really
Like,
fast.
Yeah. You go like this.
At least does it
So,
go straight into a
I
chain
think
finisher?
That's it for Jorm.
If that's the case, then it's
well,
good.
I mean, that's a lot.
That's a
for
lot.
A lot
Yeah,
for Jorm,
yeah.
right?
I mean, it's almost like a new hero at this
Yeah.
Exactly.
point. Like with
Exactly.
all that stuff, it's insane. Yeah.
I really want to thank just a minute. I want to thank like Jimmy and Noel for this one. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think it's one of our bigger TG that we did.
Yeah, I think definitely like we put a lot of work into it, both on the design and the animation side, right? You guys worked super hard.
Yeah.
We worked super hard. Went to mocap, did all these things.
Yes.
And it's amazing. So the
Yeah.
people that worked on it, great job. And I think we're ending up with a hero that's a lot more interesting than he used to be.
That's the goal.
Not that your old Jorm wasn't fun. Like you still had that big feeling of yeah, I got this big giant hammer. You know, I'm gonna do stuff. But at the end of the day, having a character that is a bit healthier gameplay.
Exactly the same as TG. You know how long that TG was ago, bro? I forgot everything was in it.
Tier list recently, where well, all the recent tier lists put him like at the bottom or like very.
No
yeah,
more.
but they haven't tested
No
the new
more.
one. That's
Yeah.
why.
They have
That's
tested
why.
a new one, so what they have, but
March
now
16, it's gonna be up.
yeah. Okay, and then finally, we have some Afeera bug
Oh,
fixes.
here we go.
I want to make it clear: these were completely unintended.
Yes.
Yeah.
We knew
You
about
see
them.
that? You see that right there?
We wanted to life
Gravity
patch them,
pool no
but at the
longer
end of the day,
guarantees
the
speeding
infinite
comet.
was a lot more important to life patch.
Yeah.
And if we have to make a choice between fixing the infinite and putting a bunch of other things in that need a bit more testing,
So you can't
make
chain
sure that,
beats.
things are going to be okay, then we'd rather delay it a little bit. We know it felt bad for some players, and I'd rather have them now than not have them at all.
Gotcha.
And so this
course.
is how it works. So these were definitely, I know people were like, oh yeah, that's intended. No, none of these were intended.
Come on.
Right? So, yeah.
So
first of
now,
all,
so now
Guardian's
if you
Pull, which
if
is
you
our
get hit
first
with a
feat,
light and you try to
no
switch
longer
stances, I
guarantees
believe you can still
speeding
dodge
comet,
the
which
kick.
is the third feat.
So it's not
We
it's not
didn't wanna
confirmed
do
anymore.
Feat 1, that's 500
It's
MS.
not
from
like
neutral.
okay, if you catch your
We do
opponent
feat 3,
switching guard stances,
that
you know how the kick
leads
was
into
confirmed.
a
I don't
heavy
think that's the
that
case
wall
anymore.
splats into more damage. That was just like way too strong. That was not intended.
Yeah.
So we fixed that. So they're no longer guaranteeing each other. We've also increased the chaining timing after Oracle's Rush, which is a sprint attack, or running attack as some people call it, to no longer guarantee Kasaki kick, which is a chain kick, on hit or block. So that was a bug that slipped in at some point, because that wasn't always the case. Something happened at some point in our data, and the timing was a little bit too short, and so you couldn't dodge that kick at all after an Oracle's Rush. So we fixed that, so now you can always dodge it. Works out great.
There you go.
There you go.
And finally, we've also increased the chaining timing after most attacks to Kasaki kick to let opponents input a guard swap and still dodge the attack. So
Right.
this is a bug we've had before on years ago on Black Prior. That kind of slipped in as well, and we caught it a little bit too late, and so we had some issues. But basically now what should happen is, let's say I hit you with a light, you can go, I'm going to go top because I'm afraid that the undodgeable attack is going to come, and then go, oh wait, I changed my mind, you buffer a dodge, you'll be able to dodge the kick. We increase it just slightly enough so that kind of works there, and it's no longer kind of like guaranteed in those situations to make that feel better, right? So these changes should hopefully really, really help facing Afeera and have the experience be much, much better in the end for this.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. And that also means that for that very fun bug and elimination that we saw around Reddit.
Yeah,
oh, 1 to 3 and 1 to 3. And now, enjoy your last week of that. It's fun, but
They're talking to me.
It'll be gone. Okay.
And so I mean that's it.
They
for
talking
the
directly
patterns
to
of the
me.
season. I know some players were probably expecting to have like specific.
I
more
used to do
hero
that. You could just
things.
keep chaining
But
them. You can
because
go
we
1-3,
had to
1-3,
take
1-3,
a
and
lot
then
of time making sure the dodge stuff was good.
Yes.
The Rework was good. We took a tiny little break from that from this season, but for the next TU, we're gonna have more. It's gonna come back. Don't worry.
We're not done.
We're
A
not
lot
done.
of work, yeah.
And we have so much.
But
stuff
all right, guys, that's the
here.
patch notes, man.
And
Let's
I'm not gonna
go.
spoil
I love
anything,
it.
because
I love
I'm
it,
gonna get
man.
Probably shot. By